So we've been doing a ton of oval racing lately here on the channel. Off-road, we've been kind of in a lull right now, but during the last off-road race, I made some big changes to the car, found out some things that I did not like that I want to tell you about, so you can maybe go back and correct those items with your car, as well as some beautiful new R1 bling and some core RC springs, which are very interesting. So I'm Chad, this is the Dorky M40 RC channel. Let's try to make the B7 faster today. So the B7 is, in my opinion, kind of like this experiment. Like there's not a whole lot of carpet team stuff out there. And then when you go online and you look at like all of these crazy setup sheets, it's really hard it's hard to find somebody that's running the same stuff, carpet, track, and close to everything that you are. Well, this setup sheet, which is from Jovi Levine, is actually pretty damn close to how I had some stuff on my setup sheet. And one of the things that I've seen over and over, even from some of the local guys, is using the core RC springs. And I have no problem and really can't tell how good my associated springs are or are not. The problem is I've accumulated a lot of them over the past 2 or 3 years through the 6.4 and this. I don't know what they make. They're different versions. So yellow isn't yellow and red isn't red. So I wanted a consistent system, and that's what the core RC gives me. I've got the front tuning set and the rear tuning set. And the other thing that's really cool is that in order to maximize how these things go on the B7, what a lot of people do is they replace their top caps, or you can flip yours upside down, but they replace them with these Schumacher caps. And these things are so big and so smooth. I don't know why anybody from an associated vehicle wouldn't have them. The bottom spring cup is also the RC1 spring cups that these go in, and the core RC springs kind of have like a taper to them, so they fit inside those cups just perfectly. And I also have them inverted in the back based off of Jovi's setup. And I ran the springs and some other things at the track locally, and the car started out all right. I didn't really know what I was looking for, and we only do off-road at our track like every 2 weeks, even though it's been like a month and a half now, because we had the oval race and then an off period. So this coming Saturday, whenever this video is posted, it'll be like the 2nd or 3rd of November is when our next race is going to be. I found the limitations of the softness of spring. So basically I could tell when I was going off of jumps when there was too much traction going on and the car would start to catch and kind of skip on the carpet. So I went up one rate from that. So I have orange in the front and blue in the rear, 35 weight, 30 weight in the rear. So I think we are good on the springs. Now let's move on to the rest of the stuff. Now I've got a ton of R1 stuff on here. Obviously I'm an R1 team member, so why not have all of the good R1 stuff? And like I've mentioned before, is that if you're going to buy this stuff and upgrade your car to all these different kind of parts, the prices on the R1 stuff are very competitive, if not cheaper, and better quality in most cases. I'm going to say most, just to be fair, than the factory team type of stuff. I tore the servo and everything out of my buggy here because I wanted to get the best servo that I had into my TT02 for the oval racing. And now we have the 4th generation of the R-Works servo inside of here. And this thing is a monster. It's got a ton of torque. Now these ratings are at 8.4 volts. I don't know any ESCs that run at 8.4 volts or run direct power servo. I think this servo is putting out more torque than my older Reefs was, but it might be a tad slower. The weight is good. I like the fact that it fits with everything, like the R1 Works servo cover here. And it's got this super short mini lead on it already. So you don't have to like futz around wiring up cables and cutting cables and doing all of that kind of stuff. In the back, we've got pretty much all of the lightweight R1 type of stuff. We've got the drive cups. We've got, of course, the CVA bones. I don't have any of the rear hubs or any of that stuff. We've got their bearings. I did have the transmission. I went back to the 5-gear transmission just because I want to try to get the associated experience, and I'm not sure about how all the weight biases work because we did switch to the -4 chassis. And the other annoying thing is that the fan mount for the R1 Works transmission is a 3D printed, and it breaks constantly, and it breaks your fan and all that, and it annoys me. So that was another big reason to go back. But we've got their slipper eliminator on there with the titanium screws and all that fun stuff. We are definitely good. Now, one of Jovi's things that he had on his sheet, and I really don't understand why, you know, it could just be driving, track, or whatever. I also did find some issues up front with my assembly and my steering, but he is running 60,000 weight 2-gear in the diff. And, you know, some people are doing that. I think I got away with that in my 6.4. I had 4 gears in here. I went to the two gear in there. Maybe it was that in a combination with the issues that I had up front where I got some of the actual caster hats reversed and stuff. But the steering on everything was atrocious. It seems like I didn't have enough steering when I needed it, and I had too much when I didn't need it. So I tried everything like running KPI 3. I put the +1 steering plates and the -1 camber plates. Since then, we've went to -2, which is supposed to be the most aggressive setting. And we've also made some other changes up front as well, because one of the big things with Associated still, I've talked about this before, is their plastics. So what I ended up doing was going with their aluminum front ball stud mount. I see the X-ray guys running this on their X-rays, and I think it's just a really good option. R1 also makes like a 10-gram weight that goes in beautifully and tucks in right under the nose here. So between that and then adding a 13-gram servo, because you can't find the 33-gram plate to go underneath the servo, we should have everything all good. And in combination, since we were doing all that, I decided to go ahead and swap everything out in there to the R1 rack. That way, everything as far as the screws and the spacers and everything like that would all be kind of like compliant with each other. When you start piecing things together and going between like R1 and factory team and kit, you get into this situation where bearing sizes can differ inside the rack. The kind of shims that you need in there can vary, and screw lengths and all that kind of stuff can vary. And then also the actual, you know, hat inserts that go in there can vary as well. And I actually found that I made a mistake during assembly, and I had the 2 millimeters on the inside, and I only should have had the 1. So I got that all rectified. That could have really explained a lot of steering issues that was going on. It's all sorted out now, and everything should be, crossing my fingers, all good. I'm running the R1 KPI adjustable adapters on the front. I really like them. They're super nice. I like that they're metal. I wish that they would do the carbon fiber 1-piece shims instead of the little shims with the screws you got to fight with for easier KPI changes. So maybe that's something that they could look into in the future as far as changing. I know that I have those on the back now. Associated makes those. I might be able to actually use those in the front. I don't know. I would have to check that out. One other thing on the setup is that when you change your axle height spacers down here, one thing that I did not do is I went from the kit of the 3.0 to the 2, and I left the 0 on here. So things were not spaced properly. So what I actually had to do was rip that apart and put the 2 down here and put the 1 up here instead of the 0. So we got that all sorted out and everything. We went down in the diff fluid to the 20K with 2 gear. with the metal. We raised it up to 3 like we had done this before. And again, this is a 17.5 motor and I'm running 21.5. Maybe I might just be going just stock. I guess we'll wait and see how the season shakes out. Like I am right now, upper to mid B main pack person. And if I win a B main and bump into an A, I'm kind of not getting a good A main final race because I'm kind of in those guys' way. I'm not fast enough to keep up with them. So personally, I would rather have a great finish and win the B main and just be done than to have that bump up and then have to just have a crappy race and just kind of get out of the way of people. So I don't know how you guys think about that. That's just kind of where I am at. So currently we're running the just stock ESC just because it's worked out great. Definitely interested in a lot of the new ESC technologies that are out there. There's so many features that are getting packed into these things, but I'm not going to make any change because I did get burned, of course, with the Hobbywing G2. The R1 to me is just a little bit big and the Wi-Fi connectivity and everything is just too wonky. I really wish R1 would take that next leap forward into ESC technology. Maybe they're doing it, maybe they're not. I don't know, but I really wish they would. You know, their motors are fantastic. They got this great servo and stuff now. So let's see what else they can do. Now I am running an Exalt battery. That's what the hobby shop had up there locally when I needed some new batteries. I was running the little mini baby R1, which works out good. It's turned into a pretty good practice pack, but it just doesn't have the kick and the punch that the Exalt has, being a bigger size and a little bit of a higher C rating. Now, the other big thing that we did when we went to all the aluminum stuff up front is it allows you to like really get your screws locked in really good, especially with like Loctite. So like everything now is connected together, metal to metal. We got the bulkhead, we've got, you know, the kick up plate and all that stuff coming from the underneath. So the screws that would always annoy me and back loose, you know, going down into here and stuff can now be fully threaded inside of there. And that makes, you know, things just so much better having all of this, you know, all sandwiched together and staying together since it's all metal. And then I did actually on the back end, you know, with the pill changes and stuff, I never had a problem with it because I've always had the R1 C and D blocks, but I did buy the Avid kit that had the actually a little bit longer pins. So I've got those in there, double checked everything to make sure that things were good. So there's no binding or anything like that. So the buggy is all set up and tuned up, 13 mil ride height, -2 camber all the way around. We've got multiple sets of new tires to try out when we get to the track again. So there's really nothing we need to do now except for sit and wait for the next off-road weekend, which will be coming up now in 6 days. Yes, I'm very excited. I am counting down the days because I really want to get this thing back out on the track because I love off-road racing. It's just one of those things that you kind of get annoyed with every once in a while and you back away, but you can just never totally get away from it because it's just something that's going on. There's a big race that's going on tonight, actually, a big Halloween race. It's about an hour and a half away, but I just didn't want to be out until 2 in the morning because I'm an old man instead I'm sitting here talking to this camera. So you can judge me how you would like. So check back with the channel, guys, and we will let you know how all of these awesome upgrades going. We're at 1,476 grams. So 2 grams over the limit that we need to be. That might change depending upon what wheels and tires that we have. But right now we're going to be starting with the pin swags and the fuzz bites in the rear. That's kind of like the go-to combo. And we've got the new Schumachers and we have a set of Prolines that I want to try as well that have a really aggressive pattern. One thing I've noticed is that the better driver you are, the harder that you start to drive, the more that you do wear your tires down and scrub them down. So I'm finally starting to get to that point where, damn, my front tires only lasted me like a month or two. Man, just kind of feeling on this stuff. This steering rack really feels good now. It seems like there is a lot of slop that has been taken out of this compared to the factory team. So could be placebo, could be real. I guess we'll see. Talk to you guys later. Peace.